My name is Leah Ruby, and I have two birth stories to share. My first story was really special because my husband and I, there was for extenuating circumstances, we couldn't have a home birth. And when we got to the hospital, no doctor from my 10-person doctor practice was there. They were all on vacation. So I didn't know anybody at the hospital, and they had lost my birth plan. And when we got there, my first baby, and we said we're going to have a natural birth, and it was very painful, and I was really scared. And the nurse said, "You can labor in here for 12 hours, and then we have to cut the baby out." And I was so scared. And she left, and we turned the light off, and me and my husband were alone for the whole time, and it was wonderful. We unplugged the machines. We didn't let any nurses back in. There was only one nurse on the floor. It was just a really bizarre night in the hospital, and it turned out to be this really special thing where he became really close through the birth, and through the laboring, and then, and the other thing was that they checked me when I got there, and they said, "You're not dilated at all, you have to go home." And right then my water broke, and they wouldn't let me leave. And that is what scared me the most. And then they said the thing about, "You can labor in here forever because you're not progressing," is what they were assuming. And then we had to cut the baby out, and I cried. And then they left us alone, and we had this really wonderful, got it together, and it was about 3 hours later, the nurse came in and she goes, "Oh my gosh, you're going to have the baby." And then I started pushing. I pushed him out in less than 10 minutes. The doctor ran in and said, "I'm going to give you an episiotomy." And I was awake, of course, totally unmedicated, just trying to deliver, and Dan was there, my husband. And Dan is a very logical, calm person, and he said, "We're not going to have an episiotomy." And the doctor said, "The baby's not going to fit." She was about 25. I was about 32. She was really young, and Dan said, "I think the baby is going to fit." And I was there. I heard all of this. And she said, "The baby's not going to fit." And Dan said, "I think you're just supposed to massage the perineum." She said, "Okay." And she didn't do the episiotomy because Dan wouldn't let her. And it wasn't a violent thing. He just said, "No, we're not going to do it." And he came right out. And then they just gave him to me because we had done it without them, kind of. And then I nursed him for almost 2 hours before they did the measurements and stuff. And it was really special. And then they let us go home because there was nothing they could do. We were fine. And they just let us go. It was really fun. Pretty great. And then and I was just super close with that baby, and it was wonderful. My second baby I had, it was snowing, and we did get to have a midwife this time, and Sherry, just love her. She's the best in the whole world. She's such a great experience, my midwife, Sherry. And of course, late. And then all of a sudden, it was in February. It had been snow, sunny for like a month and a half. The day a huge snowstorm comes, all the power goes out, my baby starts to come. And so it's like 40 degrees in the house, and we call Sherry, and Sherry has to get like a truck, somebody to come and get her in a truck to get her out of her house because she lives farther out of town. And it was 3 in the morning when the contractions started. I mean, really, when they started. In about 10 minutes, I said, "We better call Sherry." And Dan said, "Okay." And they got there at about 30, Sherry and Tiffany, who is also awesome. And Tiffany had to bring her little girl because she couldn't take her to a ceremony because it was snowing, so she was at the birth, which always makes me love Malia. And Linus came right out. He was done. We were done, completely cleaned up by 5:30 in the morning. And I thought it had been like 10 hours. They said, "No, it's only 5:30. And it was wonderful. That birth was really special for me because I found a vocal way to get get through the pushing out the baby, and it was so much easier that way to be able to just let it go. But it was real quick, and both my babies are real healthy and nursing good, and so that's it.
Nice, thank you.